Good morning. Good morning. So let me know how my audio is without headphones. I do not need headphones in the space that I'm in, but if it sounds better, then I'll put them on. So I just want to see how the audio is. So first of all, good morning. I have already had quite a morning trying to come on live. But I am here, I have my coffee, and I'm ready to spend time with you with this channeled message. So lately, something that has been happening is every night I'm going to sleep and tap the viewer count. Okay, see friends. Oh, cool. It's a new feature on Facebook. Good morning. So every night as I'm falling asleep, apparently, oh, my camera is changing directions. Hold on, guys. What is going on? Okay, can you guys see me correctly? Because my camera just 100% flipped. It's like sideways now. It looks really weird. Do I still look upright to you all? Do I look fine? Just leave a comment because my video literally just, I'm not really sure what happened because Facebook has never done this before. So just let me know in the comments if I look right side up to you because I look sideways to me. Okay, hi Angel. Like I literally look like this. I don't know. Okay. Great. And you can hear me fine too as well. Okay. So you can hear me and see me fine. Great. So one of the things that has been happening to me as I'm going to sleep at night is I kind of just get these hits of like, share this, share that, share the other thing. And that's been really profound for me because working with an undefined throat center and also working with the gate 12, which is really about channeling and waiting for the correct moment, showing restraint until the correct moment to share purity. Oh, okay, that's weird. Angel, you saw it flip and then it went back to normal. It's still sideways to me, so that's like weird. Okay, as long as you guys see me as being normal, I guess. So working with that 12 and which happens to be in my earth, in my conscious earth, and allowing, good morning, Jen, allowing myself to speak when the message is there. And so that to make sure that it's pure and it's available has been really a profound practice. And so lately at night when I'm going to sleep, this is where I'm getting all this insight and I'm getting all this information to then come on live and share with you. And this whole revelation around resource and money really comes on the tail of me spending a good amount of time working with my Mercury placement in my human design chart. Now, Mercury is a very fascinating planet because I think a lot of us, even if we're just kind of lightly in the world of astrology, understand that Mercury is communication. It's connected to communication. But Mercury is so much more than just that. It is really a master planet. Within the glyph of Mercury, you contain all the other planetary symbols. And it really shows you how your mind works. Not just communication, but the essence of your mind, the brilliance of your mind. And one of the things I'm working on in the course that I'm putting together for entrepreneurs is an exploration in Mercury, in order to find your marketing voice and also your marketing wound and the thing that you have to look at in order to be able to effectively use your conscious Mercury. I'm thrilled about talking about this. I'm like so excited. So in this contemplation, hello Lexi, sitting with this contemplation, I happen to have my Mercury in gate 26, which if you don't know much about human design, gate 26 is known as the gate of the salesperson. It is literally the gate of sales. It is in the resource center, in the ego and the will. And it's in line 2, which makes me naturally brilliant at that. And it's true. It's very true. Sales for me and the ability to sell my vision, my dream, has always been a really organic thing. And it's funny because when I was a kid, my mom used to say things like, I'm going to say it in Spanish and then I'm going to translate it in English, but she would always say, si la dejan hablar, no la matan, which loosely translates in English to, if they let her talk, they won't kill her. Because I was always very convincing. I could always really state my case and sell my case very well as a kid. And so I'm reflecting on that as I'm working with my Mercury and the gift of my Mercury. And one of the things that I really see a lot of with conscious entrepreneurs, people who have big dreams, a lot of creativity, want to make an impact, is a massive resistance to sales and a massive resistance to the exchange of money. There's this like underlying weirdness about that in those communities, and it's looked at really suspiciously, and at the same time, without that exchange, we can't have business, we can't have viability, we can't have like any amount of success or impact. I mean, when you are selling and you're putting in the hands of other people the things that you have generated or created or that you are backing, the sale must occur in order for the impact to be made and in order for you to experience financial abundance. If there is no exchange happening, then none of those two things are occurring. So by and large, you keep yourself like this. You're handcuffed in this place where you want to make an impact and you want to grow in abundance, and simultaneously your belief that there's some distaste in that is preventing you from doing the very thing your soul is trying to prompt you to do, which is make an impact. And there's so many nuances to this relationship with money and sales. It's so nuanced, and there's like all these layers that we have to go through in order to understand what's happening at the base level of our energy. And the more I reflect on that being my Mercury, the more I realize how much I innately understand this. And this is actually one of the things I'm most excited to help entrepreneurs with, is to detangle this really convoluted relationship that they have to things like money and sales. And what does that actually mean? Because a lot of us are feminines stepping into a world of masculines where the sale exchange that has been modeled is really strange. It's very egoistic and it's very manipulative. And what's interesting about gate 26 is that it's known as the gate of the egoist or the gate of the salesperson, but it's really the energy of being either way depending on the awareness of the person. Someone who's either really good at manipulating a situation or someone who's just generally really good at selling from a place of desiring progress. So it really, all gates are like that. They kind of have these spectrums about them where you could be on either end of the spectrum. And so this is an innate thing that I feel really passionate about and want to address, because my deepest desire is to see people who are creative and conscious doing really well in the world, so that the thing that they are making and they are wanting to put into the world actually gets out there and does something, creates change. And it's almost like we have a kink in our hose around this entire idea of selling and money. There's a kink. And because there's a kink, we can't see impact at the level that we want to see impact. So I want you to start paying attention to something. And I want you to look at, especially those of you who are used to doing like mindset work, you're used to doing things like journaling about my beliefs and affirmations and all that kind of stuff. I want you to pay attention to a layer deeper than that in your consciousness, in your day-to-day, and do this exercise for like a week. Okay, this is something that I want y'all to do for 5 to 7 days. When you're out in the world and you're having to exchange money for anything, like groceries or a service or a bill or whatever the thing is you have to exchange money for, pay attention to the underlying current energy that you have going on when you're doing that exchange. I'm gonna let a second for that to like sink. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of us on a conscious level are like, I'm abundant. I feel prosperous. We do all these affirmations. We want to connect with this big energy. And so we're constantly saying those things. But in the day-to-day, when we're out in the world and we're actually doing the things that involve exchanging, giving, receiving, whatever, we have this anxiety that is pervasive in all of our system. And there's this underlying uneasiness that's happening while you're involved in these exchanges. And that underlying uneasiness, that pressure that you feel, that anxiety that you feel, that is actually what's setting the current for your experience in reality. It's not all the affirmations you're doing or belief work or any of the programs that you're in. None of that is really the tone that you're setting, because the underlying anxiety is the tone. Hello, Stephanie. Welcome. Hello, Kara. Lauren says, yep, that anxiety, like, hope there's enough, or is this going to drain X amount out of our account? Exactly. I'm like this because my screen is sideways. I'm sorry. It's just super weird the way my phone is right now. But that's exactly what I'm talking about, because you can do all the belief work that you want, but if in the moment of the exchange, in the moment of the decision, if you are experiencing that anxiety, then that is actually the tone that your frequency is actually that. And that's what you're going to continue to receive. It's going to match that. So spend 5 to 7 days every time that there's like a transaction of any kind. You're paying a bill, you're grocery shopping, you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. Have a little notebook with you, put it in your phone, whatever. Write down the dominant feeling that you are having in that exchange. And if there's any like physical things happening, like my chest feels tight, I'm finding it harder to breathe, my breath is really shallow, I'm kind of clammy, I feel nervous, I'm anxious, okay? So definitely nervous system work, but I'm also going to offer you a very simple exercise that doesn't even have to go that deep, okay? Yes, nervous system regulation is 100% like magical. This is something I use with one-on-one clients without missing a beat. Every time I'm in the middle of coaching a client and we hit a wall or we hit a moment where they're trying to integrate something in their design and they can't figure that out, I immediately go, for me, it's EFT because that's what I'm certified in and that's what I really like. It's super easy to do. So I immediately go to tapping on that or working with that until I see the integration happen in the session, and then we can move on. So nervous system regulation is 100% name of the game. Angel's saying is, what if your spouse isn't doing it and it's our money together? So Angel, I'm going to offer you something, because I think a lot of times when we are in a relationship, we get caught up in this thing like, well, I want to do this, but what about the other person? I saw this a lot too with nutrition and fitness. This is like one of the main reasons people couldn't stick to something or couldn't do something. What if you just keep your side of the street clean? What if this next exercise I'm going to offer you, you just do and don't worry about the other person? Because what we all underestimate as a collective is the intentional impact that we have frequency-wise on other people. We really underestimate how much we can create change without physically doing anything. There have been countless experiments done on the power of intention, where people are literally just using the frequency of their mind and creating physical changes in their environment. Famously, there's that one experiment of mass meditators, and while the meditators were doing meditation for an hour, like all of the crime in the entire city went down by like 40%. How did that happen? The meditators weren't out there like policing homes. That's not what they did, but it still had an impact on the consciousness of everyone in that city. So my invitation to you and anybody who gets trapped in that conversation of like, I want to do this, but what about them, is keep your side of the street clean. And watch when you change your consciousness, how that affects the consciousness of other people. It's dramatic. It's not to be taken lightly. Morning, Bridget. So here's a very simple exercise. And this is where I'm going to share my story and my third line experimenting with this, because I have notoriously been a feast and famine human. Like, I get all of this money, all of these resources, and then it's like all gone. And then again, I do all this, and then it's like all gone. This has been the pulse of like my financial relationship, my resource relationship. And when you're an entrepreneur, that's very scary, because entrepreneurship is risky, you know. It is a roller coaster. And I have an undefined emotional center. For those of you who have an undefined emotional center and you're an entrepreneur, you don't really handle the waves of that instability very well. Someone who has a defined emotional center does better when it comes to handling the waves of like that life. But someone like me doesn't necessarily do so well. We get stressed very quickly. And especially if you have like abundance trauma in general, things from your past and your upbringing, things of that nature. So the last time that this really happened to me, where I saw like a significant dip in my business and I wasn't making any sales and money wasn't coming in, and I started to feel that very familiar anxiety, like panic, just right here, right? And every time I had to like pay myself, or every time I had to like pay a card or do something, it was just like instant stress. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about? Y'all who are on here, relatable? So I said to myself, what if I just focus on micro moments? Because part of my design as well, I'm splenic defined, and I have gates that are very projection oriented. So like my 44, for example, my 44 is all about looking at the past and like, what can I do to prevent me repeating the past? Okay. And so that 44 often keeps me freaked out, because I don't want to repeat mistakes from my past. And that generates an enormous amount of anxiety for me. So what I have done is I've created this really microcosm practice of, when I find myself doing that, I come into this now moment, right now, today, and I'll be home with my kids, for example, and I'll say, what do I have right now? I understand what my brain is wanting to tell me, that I don't have this, or I don't have that, or that's upcoming and that's stressful. But in this moment, what do I have? And I would say things like, well, my kids are healthy. Thank God. My husband's healthy after that back incident we went through. Thank God. We have food in our fridge right now. I have some gas in my car right now. I would start to literally accent. Yes, so as a 4-line, listen, 4-lines need stability, and as soon as the money thing starts to get like weird, 4-lines fucking panic, because 4-lines need stability. So yes, you're correct. That's very accurate. I started to zoom in on micro moments in my life, and I started to take deliberate note of the things that I did have. Okay, I have a home that's comfortable, that's like safe from the outside. I have food in my fridge. I have, I started to take note of these little moments of abundance, and then I would catch my mind run off and be like, yeah, but da, 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 and then I would have to bring it back. And then I would do it again. And then I'd be like, yeah, but, and then I would have to bring it back, So in the beginning of doing this practice, it was like when you start meditating and you sit down and it feels like they've unleashed 8 cats in your brain and they're all doing something completely different, and there's no fucking way you're going to be able to silence your mind to sit down and meditate. Like, that's what it felt like. Okay. Yes. So the power of now, that experience that Eckhart talks about in that book, is one that I had specific to money in the past few months that has been really powerful. And here's what happened when I was practicing this. And it was about I would say it was about a week of practicing this exercise, like taking my kids to the park and just watching them play and paying attention to their presence in the moment, and how present, because kids are so present, they're so present, how present my son could be in his playtime, for example, or my daughter in her curiosity. She's a toddler now and she's exploring. And I started paying attention to their dynamics with the present moment. And I started to mimic their dynamics, but with the things in my life that I wanted to change. And one of them was my money situation or my business, wherever it was. And after a week of doing that, a moment happened inside of my consciousness where I felt myself relax in the moment. And I genuinely felt unconcerned. Whereas for the past week, I was practicing feeling unconcerned. In that moment when that switch happened and I sunk into my body, I could feel my body sink and my shoulders drop. And I felt free from the concern of how I was going to do anything when it came to resources. I just suspended that sensation for like a moment in time. It was like one afternoon I was outside with my kids. I remember it deliberately. And when that moment happened for me, it was like suddenly the sun looked brighter and the grass looked greener and the sky looked bluer and everything just looked more beautiful to me in a moment. It was like a, right? I'm so glad to hear that, Christika. I'm so glad to hear that you're here. And so the reason I'm sharing this story is because miracles and what we consider to be miracles are really those shifts, those really micro shifts that happen when our perception changes and the veil of distress that we have placed upon ourselves gets lifted and we see something with clarity that we couldn't see before. Because I think most of us on this live stream or watching this understand that we are abundant beings and that whatever we desire is available to us. But what most of us don't understand because we haven't had that moment is when we become free of our own perception. And that freedom, that moment of freedom lifts you and it activates a surrender in you that's really profound, where you actually believe in your system that you are supported. And what that does is it creates this relaxation. Just drops your whole body. I did do tapping. I will say that during the week I was doing tapping on specific, thoughts that I was having and sensations in my body that I was having. So I did incorporate some nervous system regulation techniques that I use in my work on myself. And when that shift occurred, it was like I suddenly understood that in order for us to have what we desire, we absolutely need to suspend the attachment. And this is not a new teaching. It's something that many gurus have talked about for a long time. Like when you stop being attached to an outcome, that's when you make room for the outcome. But I've never heard anybody talk about it from the experiential angle of what it feels like in your body when you finally surrender to the present. And you stop trying to look forward and plan ahead, or you stop running the Rolodex of all the things that happened to you in your past, and you're just in the moment and you genuinely are okay right here. What that feels like. I'd never experienced that until that moment. And if you know anything about my story and my history, I am from an immigrant family. Money consciousness was extremely poor all of my life. Poverty consciousness is what I grew up under, restriction, constraint, limitation. And I was very different than my family. I always had huge financial goals and big, I wanted all of the abundance. And I thought very differently than they did. I want to start organizations and I want to and no one in my family ever talked like that. That was not, so I was faced with a lot of resistance growing up on my own desires and my own dreams of what I thought was possible for me. And as an adult, being an entrepreneur has really triggered a lot of that and required that I get really dialed in to how do I surrender this attachment that I have to this vision? And how do I be okay right now in the moment so that I can make space energetically for what I desire without feeling so much tension in my body? Because I guarantee you, the things that you want, the resources that you want, the money that you want, whatever, it doesn't come when there's tension like that in your body. That's all I'm going to say. It doesn't come with tension. That's not how that works. It comes when you finally feel like, regardless of what the circumstances are, you are actually okay. And when you get that from a physiological level. Okay. So I hope that in introducing this little exercise that could feel really frustrating in the beginning, of just coming back to the present moment and taking note of everything you do have. And then if you have children, watching your children and watching their sense of presence and mimicking that sense of presence in your own life without the Rolodex, and just suspending it just for a moment and just being consistent about it, that you get to experience that same shift in perception. And of course, if you know tapping or a practice like that, please use that as well. Super powerful. But now is the time for this kind of subtle work, the nuanced work. Because I think it's very easy for us to listen to the news and listen to people who know about finances and start to panic. And when we do that, I want you to understand that what you've done is you've given away your power to this other individual. You've literally just surrendered your own power to this person or this entity or this institution and said, yeah, obviously I'm going to struggle because you're saying that that's what I'm going to do. And the thing about doing something like that is that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know that quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right? 100%. 100%. So be very mindful of what you're giving your power to and what kind of intention that's casting over your whole life. And how you are allowing the things that are coming from the outside world to penetrate your aura and tell you what you need to be feeling and thinking. Especially if you're a very open being, especially if you have an open emotional solar plexus and an open will center. These are two centers, you know, the will center governing resources and the emotional center all about feelings. Be mindful of how our feelings are being played on right now. The scarcity feeling, like we are literally being preyed upon right now by almost every massive media outlet. Be careful where you are spending your time and your energy, and make it a point to come back to the present moment when you are finding yourself spiraling either forward or backwards, and do not stop doing that. Okay. So that was put on my heart last night to come in here and talk about, all because of my Mercury study. All because of that. If you're an entrepreneur, this upcoming mastermind is going to blow your mind, because this marketing message, like, I'm going to be looking at all of your Mercuries and we're going to be talking about your Mercury and how you came here to market. And it's going to be bomb. Chelsea said, oh my God, yes, I just went through an interesting experience where a group of people told me how something was, but I knew in my heart and in my body that that wasn't true for me, and I stood in my truth and I feel so empowered. Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea, for sharing that. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Be so mindful. Like, curate your, some of you are gardeners, a lot of you are gardeners and like plants a lot. Curate your spirit the way you curate that damn garden. Some of y'all take better care of your plants than you do your energy. And we got to talk about that. I'm not saying don't take care of your plants. I'm saying take care of your damn energy as much as you do your plants. Okay. So I looked up my chart after watching your video yesterday, and I'm a generator and have left angle cross Clarion or something. Spring shot. We're ready. That's a lot to read sideways. Sorry, my phone is sideways, so I'm having a really hard time reading this, Audrey. So I'm gonna read that afterwards and then I'll comment. I know you love your plants. I know a lot of you on here love your plants, but damn, do you spend more time and energy on your plants than you do yourself. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. You let everybody tell you how to feel about you. Come on. We're not doing that. It's 2022. We're not doing that. Okay? We're not. We are setting the intention for our lives. And we are deciding that the present moment is the most valuable moment that we have now. right now. And living in a tortured state in the present moment for something that hasn't even happened yet and could change dramatically in an instant robs all of your possible joy on the planet. So let's not do that. Okay? We're not doing that. Oh, the call out is strong today. I see that a lot of people needed this. I'm glad. Spirit, literally, y'all be talking with Spirit, and then Spirit come over to me at night like, hey girl, we need you to do a live video tomorrow. You ready? I swear it's like every night lately. Okay, so little bit of information. I'm actually going to be live on TikTok later, and I'm doing something very interesting if you guys are on TikTok at all. I'm actually going to be going through Taylor Swift's chart because I've been listening to her album, and I knew instantly when I was listening to this new album that she's a projector, which she is. We share very close birthdays, her and I. And I'm like, let's talk about this album because it was very self-revelatory. This brand new album that she brought out, to me, it's probably the most self-revelatory one that I've heard, but in not like in a more honest and less intense way, and it was more humble. So I really like that about this particular album that she dropped, and I was like, you know what? I've not done a celebrity chart really live ever, and I think that would be fun. So I'm gonna go do that on that platform. Everybody says when they watch Encanto that I remind them of Maribel, which is like really hilarious. Like every single person who is like close to me who watched that movie texted me and said the same thing when the movie came. And I find that to be really amusing because then I watch the movie and like her personality is like 1000% me. I experienced so much of my personality in her. I was like, wow, that's oddly accurate. So I'm going to be doing that later on TikTok. If you're interested in celebrity charts, a lot of people aren't, but I'll be doing that there. Secondly, plug again, my foundational minis, they go away November 15th. So if you need to understand your design, if you are really wanting to dive into your design, great opportunity. If you want to look at your children's design, great opportunity. I am offering 10% off added charts. So if you get a foundational mini for one of your kids or for yourself and you're like, okay, I want to add another one of my kids, or maybe you're doing your own chart and you want to add your kid, I'll do 10% off the following charts as like a bonus gift. Okay. So take advantage of that. Comment below and write mini, or send me a direct message if you're more comfortable doing that. I had a couple of you send me that yesterday, and that's fine. I can send you the direct links, or I can build your bundle for you if you want to add charts. Okay, take advantage. Great deal. The link for the minis is not in bio because if you want to do more than one chart, I have to custom make your bundle. So if it's just for you, then I'll just send you the direct link to the mini. But let's say you want to do you and like your kids, then I have to like manually input that. So that's why it's not there. So I'll send you, if you want to do more than one chart, just send me a message and let me know that. And then I'll make sure that I get the details. All right. So I hope you guys have a really powerful rest of your week and you walk into your weekend with a whole new sense of awareness and grace and presence. Last year, I feel like my word has been grace most of the year, but recently it switched to presence, and I want to offer that to you. How can you be more present in your life on a daily basis? How can you truly take advantage of your present moment? You know, and really allow that presence to be your guiding force in everything that you do, from dishes to work to eating. You know, how can you increase your level of presence? So, Angel, a lot of times parents come to me for kids charts because when you see your child, raising them is really different. For me, seeing my son's chart, I'll give you a really brief example. My son is a 3-6 profile. 3s are all about mistake making. We learn through trial and error. Okay, that's what we do. We make mistakes, we learn from the mistakes, and there's usually a lot of mistakes. 3-6s or 6-3s, there's double 3 energy for the first 30 years of their life. which means mistake central. And my son is literally just like one thing after another with him. Like, he breaks everything, he spills everything, he drops everything, he loses everything. He like everything. He is like a walking tornado. Okay. And at first I would get so frustrated until I understood his profile, and I was like, oh, okay, this is just his learning style. Okay. He's just going to do that. All right. And so what I have to do is I have to teach him how to learn from mistakes, the value of learning from them, and also that mistakes don't decide who you are as a person. Because what I have seen in 3-6s or 6-3s who grow up with really overly critical parents is that they have a really intense self-loathing and they're terrified of making mistakes, even though that's exactly how they're designed to learn. So my goal as a parent is to make sure that he does not get afraid of making mistakes and that he actively searches to learn from them, right? That's an awareness that I gathered from seeing just one part of his chart. So seeing your kid's chart or your partner's chart or whatever, what it does is it amplifies an understanding of who they actually are and how you relate to them. It helps you. Now, if it's a partnership chart, that would be a comparison chart. That's different. That's on my website. And I do comparison charts. Like, if you want me to blend you and your kid's chart or you and your partner's chart and read that compatibility aspect, that's one service. But for the mini readings, they're very effective for kids because it lets parents understand how to work with their kids' energy. So that's why I talk about it a lot. Also, I really love parent-child work with human design. That and entrepreneurs are my two favorite groups of people to work with in general. Hopefully that answered your question. Hi, Morgan. All right, so I'm gonna hop off. I have some tasks to do and some charts to run for clients, and then I will be going live on TikTok. My handle is at _sovereign_Shakti, just like IG. If you follow me there, it's the same handle on TikTok. And I'm going to be doing a T Swift's chart over there later. So stay tuned for that. All right, y'all. Happy weekend. Bye.